The mother-in-law left her granddaughter at the amusement park and went alone to buy lottery tickets. The next day, the lottery results were announced. She won 200 million, but my daughter was nowhere to be found. I demanded to know where she had left my daughter. She cried, insisting she had held onto her tightly and didn't understand how the child had disappeared. I was furious and ready to fight her, but my husband stopped me, saying his mother had sacrificed so much to raise him and that I should let it go. I can't believe he actually said such things, making a scene about divorcing him, and without hesitation, he agreed immediately. Alone, I began my journey to find my daughter. Who would have thought that a month later, a scorching apocalypse would strike? My parents in the countryside begged me on their knees to return home for shelter, only for me to discover my daughter's decomposing body in the wild on the way back. I completely lost my mind. Ignoring my parents' pleas, I rushed back to the city to avenge my daughter, but when I returned to my old home, it was already deserted. I wandered under the scorching heat of nearly 60 degrees, desperately trying to find the old woman. It wasn't until 3 months later, when the heat wave ended and torrential rains arrived, by chance, I saw my husband passionately kissing my former best friend on a luxury yacht in the rain. They discovered me and tied me back to a luxurious mountaintop villa. Only then did I realize that the day before my daughter was sold, my husband's mistress, who was also my best friend, was 4 months pregnant and found out it was a boy. My mother-in-law was overjoyed. To make room for her grandson, she directly sold my daughter. And the person who bought my daughter was none other than my best friend's older brother. Still single at 30 in their hometown, my 3-year-old daughter was brutally abused to death by an old bachelor and her body was dumped in the wilderness. After selling her granddaughter, my mother-in-law bought a lottery ticket to celebrate and unexpectedly won a 200 million yuan jackpot, which became the key to their family's survival in the apocalypse. Mommy, what's wrong with you? The child's voice, long etched into my bones, echoed in my ears, making me think I was hallucinating again. During the months of searching for my daughter, such voices often echoed in my ears, until a soft touch reached my hand. Following the sensation, I looked down and saw the person I had been longing for day and night. Her big, watery eyes filled with concern as she gazed at me. In disbelief, I whispered softly, "Tong Tong, Mommy. Tong Tong is here. Mommy, what's wrong with you? Wah wah." Tong Tong was scared to tears by me. I collapsed onto the ground, staring at her without daring to blink. Only when tears blurred my vision did I burst into loud sobs. "Tong Tong, Mommy's precious. Mommy finally found you. Whoa, Mommy will never leave you again. Mommy, don't cry. Whoa, Mommy won't leave Tong Tong." I don't know how long we mother and daughter held each other crying, until the sound of the door opening interrupted us. With my mother-in-law's coarse voice appearing in the living room, "What's going on here? I could hear you two crying from far away, on such a good day. How unlucky, too." I stopped crying, held my daughter, and sat down on the sofa, my gaze fixed on the rabbit-shaped clock in the living room. It was 5:47 p.m. She had left around 7 a.m., gone for nearly the entire day. I looked at my mother-in-law. Her narrow, triangular eyes were filled with disdain for me and Tong Tong. In my past life, I wasn't unaware of her dislike for me. Less than a year after I gave birth to Tong Tong, she urged me to have a second child, saying their son family couldn't be without a son. Seeing her favor sons over daughters like this, how could I dare to have another? I told her Tong Tong would be my only child, and my husband supported me at the time. Who would have thought that mother and son would pull off something astonishing behind my back? As I wiped Tong Tong's tears, I lowered my gaze to hide the hatred in my eyes and asked, "Mom, where have you been all day?" She placed her handbag on the coffee table, a flicker of guilt flashing in her eyes. "Where else could I go? Didn't you ask me to come take care of your kid?" I had to familiarize myself with the neighborhood. Been walking around all day. I'm exhausted. She glanced at me, muttering under her breath as she picked up a glass of water to drink. Hearing her words, I couldn't help but scream inwardly, "Yes. I did ask you to look after my child, but I never asked you to sell my child. You're the child's grandmother. How could you be so heartless? You're a woman too. How could you despise girls so much?" I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in my heart. Tong Tong is 3 years old this year, old enough to start kindergarten. Due to a difficult pregnancy and childbirth, I've been out of the workforce for 4 years. I graduated from a top-tier university, 985 project. My parents worked hard to get me into a good college, not to become a housewife, so I had long planned to go back to work when my child started kindergarten. Originally, the plan was for my mother to take care of my child, but when Tong Tong was 1 year old, my mother accidentally fell while working in the fields and lost sight in one eye. Over the past 2 years, her other eye has also started to develop presbyopia, with the hustle and bustle of city traffic. I was afraid she might have an accident while taking the child to and from school, so I considered hiring a live-in nanny, who knew this would reach my mother-in-law's ears, and she made a huge scene, calling me wasteful. I initially ignored her, until my husband said his mother wanted to come look after the child and asked me to give her the 8,000 yuan we had set aside monthly for a nanny. At first, I disagreed. But I couldn't hold out against my husband constantly sending me videos of live-in nannies abusing children, nor my mother-in-law calling me every other day with sweet talk. Seeing her change in attitude, I thought, after all, she's the child's own grandmother, and she's getting 8,000 yuan from me every month. Surely she'd be more reliable than a stranger. Who would have known that this one wrong decision of mine would forever separate me and my daughter? 3. Seeing her heading toward the bedroom, I was filled with such hatred that I couldn't help but ask, "How come I heard from Aunt Lee in the neighborhood that she saw you at the hospital today?" My mother-in-law immediately stopped in her tracks and turned to look at me in panic. "Did you see me?" "Oh, well, I wasn't feeling well today, so I went to the hospital." "What else did she say?" I looked at her sarcastically and said, "She also mentioned seeing you supporting a young woman and asked me if that was Jikai's sister." "What Jikai's sister?" "I just saw that young woman was pregnant and wanted to share in her joy. Who wouldn't? When I don't have a chubby grandson of my own." At this point, she glared fiercely at Tong Tong. "If I had grandchildren, would I still be envious of others? If you had any ambition, you'd hurry up and find a job instead of sitting around at home without even producing a son. Not a single cent of my 8,000 yuan can be missing. Don't think you can fob me off with my son's money." With that, she turned and went into the bedroom. I watched her retreating figure and let out a cold laugh. Living off others, back when I hadn't resigned yet, my salary was more than double her son's. All these years at home, I've been spending my own savings. Her son, who kept talking about starting a business, not only never gave me any money but sometimes even needed my financial help. It wasn't until last year that his small company began to show some signs of improvement. But who would have thought that before his business could truly flourish, he'd already started managing an extramarital affair? 4. Feeling a gentle tug on my clothes, I shifted my gaze to the daughter nestled in my arms. "What's wrong, Tong Tong?" My daughter looked at me with her big eyes, her little mouth trembling slightly before she spoke. "Mommy, I don't like Grandma. Can Grandma, maternal, come take care of me instead?" My eyes instantly reddened. They say children's emotions are the most sensitive. She must have sensed Grandma's dislike for her too. I kissed her little cheek and forced a smile, saying, "Tong Tong, don't worry, Mommy won't let Grandma take you away. From now on, Mommy will take care of you herself and won't leave you with anyone else." "Really?" Her eyes lit up instantly but dimmed just as quickly. She shook her head and said, "No, let Grandma take care of me. Mommy still has to work. Mommy likes working." My already aching heart grew even heavier with sorrow. My sensible child, who was abused to death by such scum in their past life. Just thinking about it makes me wish I could suck their marrow and devour their flesh. If it were before, I might still worry about balancing work and life. But now, the apocalypse is coming. What damn job? It's no longer important. I patted her head and said very seriously, "Tong Tong, don't worry. Mommy will definitely take care of Tong Tong herself. Compared to work, Mommy likes Tong Tong more." The child's face immediately blossomed into a smile, shyly burying her head in my arms. Compared to going to school, Tong Tong prefers her mom more. 5. When it was time for dinner in the evening, I took Tong Tong to eat her favorite burgers and fried chicken. As for the old hag, she wouldn't let herself starve anyway. As for Sun Jikai, although he told me he was busy working overtime on a project at the company, he was probably with my dear best friend, after all. She's carrying his precious fat son. After dinner, I first went to the pharmacy to buy sleeping pills, then spent a hefty sum at an equipment store to purchase hidden cameras. After that, I took Tong Tong to the amusement park and didn't return home until almost 9 o'clock. Back home, the old woman was still watching TV. Seeing Tong Tong and me return with armfuls of bags, she rolled her eyes so hard they nearly reached the sky. Just a worthless girl, spoiled beyond measure. Seeing her dark expression, Tong Tong hid behind me in fear. I set down the bags and glared coldly at her, calling others little brats left and right. As if you're not a woman yourself. How can you be so self-deprecating, Jiang Yao? Have you lost your mind? How dare you talk back to me? Seeing that I actually dared to defy her, she widened her triangular eyes in shock and started shouting loudly. Do you believe me if I say I'll go back tomorrow and never babysit for you again? I lifted my chin and stared straight at her. You begged me to come take care of the child. If you're not willing, you can leave right now. How dare you defy me? She instantly stood up, grabbed the toys I bought for Tong Tong, and smashed them on the floor. You just want me gone so you can hire a nanny, don't you? 8,000 yuan a month. Do you have any idea how hard my son works to earn that money? These useless things aren't food or drink. That little spendthrift only knows how to waste money. I glanced at the toys on the floor and let out a soft scoff. Not edible, not drinkable. Then what were all those toys she bought for that wretched child in her past life? What did they amount to? I look at her and say, words like worthless girl or money-losing burden will never belong to my child. She is a person, a dignified human being, not fodder for your outdated ideas. You willingly degrade yourself and want to be inferior to men. But don't drag my daughter into it. And, you say I'm spending your son's money. That's hilarious. Should I call him right now and ask if I've spent a single penny of his? As I spoke, I picked up my phone, ready to make the call. Seeing that I was serious about calling, she panicked and said through gritted teeth, Fine, no need to call. I won't call her little girl anymore. I chuckled to myself. I knew she wouldn't let me make the call, after all. Today was their family's big celebration. How could she allow me to ruin it? I snorted lightly at her, picked up the toy from the floor, and took my daughter back to the master bedroom. After giving my daughter a bath, I poured her a glass of milk and discreetly dropped the white pill into the remaining milk. Ever since the old woman moved in, she had developed a habit of drinking milk. It was originally imported milk I bought for my daughter, but now 2/3 of it ended up in her stomach. Since that's the case, let's settle the grudges from my past life starting with this glass of milk. 6. After putting my daughter to sleep, I peeked through the door crack and saw the old woman indeed carrying a large glass of milk into the bedroom. Curling my lips into a smirk, I picked up my phone and called my younger brother. Sis, why are you calling so late? My brother Jiang Feng sounded surprised. Hearing my brother's voice after so long made me feel so emotional I wanted to cry. In our past life, after he found out what the Sun family had done to us, my mother and me, he gathered his friends and beat Sun Jikai, landing himself in detention for half a month. When the high-temperature apocalypse arrived, he risked heatstroke to come pick me up, even when I broke down upon seeing my daughter's corpse near home and insisted on going back for revenge, causing our parents endless worry. He never blamed me. Instead, he stood by me. He even helped me search for the Sun family for a while, until our mother fell ill at home. Only then did he reluctantly return, fulfilling the duties of 2 children alone. I've always felt guilty towards him, and now suddenly hearing his voice again, the pain in my heart is impossible to suppress. I took a deep breath, trying my best to calm my emotions. Xiao Feng, can you come to the mall tomorrow? What's wrong, sis? Did something happen? I couldn't hold back any longer, choking out a sob. The bitterness in my heart surged like floodwaters unleashed by a sluice gate, pouring out uncontrollably at the sound of my family's concern. Sis, my younger brother called out urgently on the other end of the line, his worry transmitting clearly through the receiver. Did brother-in-law bully you? Don't be afraid. I'll gather some friends and head to the mall right now. My throat burned as if cut by knives. I clenched my teeth into the blanket, refusing to let myself break into loud sobs. After what felt like an eternity, long enough for my brother to nearly call the police, I finally managed to suppress my emotions enough to speak. Don't worry, I'm fine right now. Come see me tomorrow. There's too much to discuss, and it's hard to explain over the phone. Remember, you must come alone. Don't tell mom and dad. I don't want them to worry, sis. What exactly is going on? You're being so vague. How could I not be anxious? I could hear my younger brother pacing anxiously on the other end of the line. It's just, there's really too much to explain all at once. Besides, even if I told him now, he might not believe me. He'd probably think Sun Jikai had driven me to the point of losing my mind. I repeatedly reassured him, telling him not to worry, to get a good night's sleep, and just drive over tomorrow. 7. Finally hanging up the phone. I packed mine and my daughter's luggage while lost in thought. Tomorrow, I'll go buy the lottery ticket that was originally supposed to be purchased by my mother-in-law. In my past life, their entire family celebrated their good fortune by taking a photo of that lottery ticket, framing it in a huge frame, and displaying it in that mountaintop villa. When Sun Jikai and his men tied me back to the villa, it was beneath this lottery ticket that they revealed the whole truth to me, later. That lottery ticket became my inner demon, etched deeply into my heart. In this lifetime, I will tear this demon out with my own hands and nail it into the hearts of everyone who has harmed me and my mother. Buzz buzz, the phone vibrated. It was my alarm going off. I placed the neatly packed suitcases aside, retrieved the camera I bought from the electronics store from my daughter's pile of toys, and began setting it up around the room. After finishing the master bedroom, I moved on to the living room. Finally, I unlocked my mother-in-law's bedroom with the key, only to see her lying stark naked on the bed. The sight nearly made me throw up my dinner from the night before. Afraid of getting an eye infection from the revolting scene, I quickly installed the device and rushed out. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. But who would have guessed that holding my soft and sweet daughter and smelling the milky fragrance on her would make me fall into a deep sleep? It wasn't until the sound of loud banging on the door that I suddenly woke up. Hearing the urgent knocking, my heart skipped a beat. Could it be Sun Jikai coming back? I checked my phone. It wasn't even 5 a.m. yet. That shouldn't be the case. He should be with his little lover right now. Why would he come at this hour? I slipped on my slippers and went to the living room door, peering through the peephole, only to see my younger brother Jiang Feng outside. I quickly opened the door and exclaimed, "Xiao Feng, why are you here at this hour? Didn't I tell you to come during the day? It's so dangerous at night." The journey from our hometown to the provincial capital's shopping district takes nearly 4 hours even with smooth traffic. He must have rushed over non-stop right after I called him. I was both annoyed and unsurprised. This was exactly the kind of thing he'd do. Although my parents weren't extremely wealthy, they had an exceptionally good relationship. They never treated me unfairly just because I was a girl. In fact, they even doted on me a little more precisely because I was their daughter. After I grew more sensible, I understood how much my parents loved me. So I never harbored any resentment toward my younger brother. As a result, under our parents' proper guidance, the bond between us siblings remained very strong. My brother didn't respond to what I said. Instead, he first looked me up and down carefully. Seeing that I wasn't injured, he visibly sighed in relief. "Could I not come over, with that tone of yours? You nearly scared me to death." He walked in, glanced around, and frowned, asking, "Where's brother-in-law?" I didn't respond to him but instead led him into the bedroom, pointing at those suitcases. "Help me carry these downstairs first, and I'll explain later." 8. I held my daughter, who was still sleeping soundly, and got into the car my younger brother drove over. My brother's face was cold, his lips pressed tightly together as he stared straight ahead. I sighed and said, "Sun Jikai, he cheated on me." "Who is she?" My brother's voice was as icy as the coldest days of winter. "Xiao Min." "What?" My brother slammed on the brakes, nearly causing a rear-end collision. I quickly dropped the subject until we reached the hotel and settled my daughter in, then said, "No doubt about it. It's her." My brother frowned deeply. "Wasn't she your best friend?" "Yes, she's my best girlfriend. We're from neighboring villages and attended the same school from elementary through high school, even sharing the same class and dormitory until senior high. We only separated when she went to a regular class because her grades weren't as good as mine, while I entered the advanced class. Even so, our relationship never grew distant. Not only did we eat meals and go to the restroom together every day, but she even chose to attend college in the same city as me. In my previous life, I always thought she was my best friend until I saw her kissing Sun Jikai on the yacht. It wasn't until she held her son and flaunted it in front of me, with chains around my neck, that I realized everything. Turns out, She had her eyes on my husband as early as when she was my bridesmaid, all because she heard Sun Jikai mention during the wedding that he was currently starting a business. She had marked him as her target. She said that I had always been more outstanding than her since childhood, but not as beautiful. She wanted to tell me that excellent achievements are nothing compared to a beautiful appearance. In the end, she won. My highly accomplished husband went to a hotel with her the first time she seduced him. After that, she became my husband's secretary. While I was at home taking care of our child, she gave my husband romantic escapades. Just as I was preparing to re-enter the workforce and become a strong career woman, she gave my husband a son. Contrary to what Sun Jikai told me about the company barely breaking even, the truth was the company had already started turning a profit by then, though modest. An annual net profit exceeding $1 million was more than achievable. But this money never reached my pockets. It was intercepted by Xiao Min. Seeing the company's prosperous situation, she secretly began planning to get pregnant. After confirming her pregnancy, she started guarding against my daughter potentially competing with her child for inheritance in the future. So, upon confirming she was carrying a boy, she found someone to whisper in my mother-in-law's ear. Thus occurred the incident where the old woman abandoned my daughter at the amusement park. Actually, everything was orchestrated by Xiaomin behind the scenes. As for why she had my daughter bought by her brother, she said it was purely to spite me, because I had always been better than her and overshadowed her. She knew her brother had peculiar fetishes, so when Tong Tong was abused by him, she even had him record videos, just waiting for the right moment to send them to me for my enjoyment. She just hadn't anticipated that the apocalypse would arrive. Cutting off the internet and delaying her plan. 9. After they dragged me back to the villa, not only did I endure daily torment from Xiao Min's brother, Xiao Yong, but I was also forced to watch videos of my daughter being abused. At that time, my heart felt like an anthill, riddled with holes from the torment, yet I couldn't bring myself to bite my tongue and end it all, because I always believed it was my fault that Tong Tong suffered. If I hadn't agreed to let my mother-in-law come, my daughter wouldn't have died such a tragic death. I punished myself with self-inflicted torment. It wasn't until they had tortured me to my last breath that I finally understood. Actually, it wasn't my fault. They wanted Tong Tong's life, and I simply couldn't guard against it all. If it hadn't happened now, it would have happened at another time, but it was already too late. There was no room left for me to make amends. Fortunately, fate granted me a chance to be reborn, in this lifetime. I will repay them hundreds and thousands of times over for the pain they inflicted on me and my daughter. 10. My younger brother sat across from me, listening quietly to everything I said, his elbows resting on his knees, his head buried in his hands, tears falling drop by drop. Sis, I'm going to kill those scumbags. His eyes bloodshot, he stood up and strode out. I quickly grabbed hold of him. Xiao Feng, it's not the right time yet. Of course they all deserve to die, but not now. We can't throw away our lives because of them. They're not worth it. The order is still normal now. If we really kill them, my brother will also face imprisonment. Under my strong pull, my brother sat down. I continued, Xiao Feng, do you believe what I said about rebirth and the apocalypse? He looked at me, wiped his tears, and smiled bitterly. I believe you. Why? I was somewhat surprised. I hadn't expected my younger brother to believe so easily. I thought it would take more effort. Suspiciously, I looked at him, wondering if he had also been reborn. My brother shook his head and said, I haven't been reborn. Just yesterday, I was doing renovations for a family in Xiao Yong's village when I accidentally overheard Xiao Yong talking to his mother. His mother told him to stop harming the young girls in the village, saying they were still children and that he would go to jail if he got caught. I felt disgusted and furious at the time. I initially thought about calling the police or informing those kids' parents. But first, I didn't know who those kids were, and second, I lacked concrete evidence. Even if I reported it, the police might not believe me, and I could even be sued for defamation by the Xiao family. Actually, I had already bought surveillance cameras and was planning to secretly install them near his house late at night. But then I suddenly got your call and came here instead. You definitely didn't know about this. Now that you've revealed his perversion, I know everything you've said is true. Listening to my brother's account, the rage inside me felt like it could burn me to ashes. This beast is worse than pigs and dogs. Those children, they're all still so young. I looked at my younger brother and said, Xiao Feng, we can't just stand by and do nothing, even if the apocalypse is coming. We must stop him from harming more people. Those children may die from the scorching heat or perish in the torrential rain, but they must never die beneath the crotch of a beast. I know, sis, let's hurry back to our hometown now. My brother glanced at his phone and said, according to your timeline, we still have a month before the apocalypse. That's plenty of time to go home and prepare. When the time comes, we'll use disaster avoidance methods to make Sun Jikai bring his mother to our place. Then their lives will be in our hands. As for the Xiao family, those bastards, instead of sending them to prison where they'd be fed and punished comfortably, we'll take matters into our own hands and deliver justice ourselves. We'll settle not only their crimes but also the grudges you and Tong Tong carried from your past lives. Listening to my brother's clear and logical analysis, I nodded repeatedly. He had truly read my mind. There's just one thing that differs from what I imagined. Xiaofeng, you're absolutely right. Except for one point, we can't go back to our hometown. 11. Why? My younger brother asked, puzzled, because only in the provincial capital can we get the latest and fastest updates. I explained to him, based on my experience from my previous life, the government remained in disaster relief mode until my death, although they couldn't reach everyone. The aid available in the provincial capital would certainly be more substantial than what rural areas could receive. I may possess memories from my past life, but that doesn't mean I can avoid all dangers. To minimize the risks we face, the only way is to live under the order maintained by the government. My younger brother hesitated, but with the apocalyptic disasters already happening, will order still exist? I nodded firmly. I can't speak for other countries, but in China, as long as the world doesn't end, order will definitely exist. It's just a matter of whether it's good or bad. Convinced by my words, my brother's eyes showed confidence in our country, but then he scratched his head awkwardly, still somewhat troubled. But if we live in the provincial capital, where would we stay? Although my savings could buy a house in a small county town, it's still far from enough for the provincial capital. I laughed and tapped his head with a magazine from the table. Don't you still have your big sister? It's already quite impressive for this kid to have saved enough for a house by his early 20s. How many people his age still have their palms facing upward? It seems that failing the college entrance exam back then and having him learn a trade was the right decision. He doesn't yet know about my upcoming lottery ticket purchase and looks at me confused. Sis, the money you've had these past few years must be almost gone, right? Mom mentioned just the other day that she'd give you some after selling the wheat. I'm touched by how my parents have always treated my brother and me fairly when it comes to money, unlike other parents who claim not to favor sons over daughters but end up spending all the family savings on buying cars and houses for their sons, while giving their daughters only a few quilts and some furniture as dowry. When I married Sun Jikai back then, my mother directly gave me a dowry of 200,000 yuan, which was half of her and my father's savings over the past 20 years. Neither my brother nor I received a penny more. It was perfectly fair. It's just that I later gave this money to Sun Jikai, and it became the startup capital for his company. Now it's all been in vain. I wrote a string of numbers on paper. Xiao Feng asked puzzledly, what is this? The winning numbers for tomorrow's 200 million lottery. Holy shit, he jumped 3 feet high, staring at me in shock. Is this real? Would I lie to you? I rolled my eyes at him exaggeratedly. He immediately started grinning foolishly with the lottery ticket in hand. I was just thinking about using all the IDs at home to scrape together loans for stockpiling supplies. But now I don't need to. Ha ha ha. Alright, stop grinning like an idiot. Get some sleep now. When you wake up, I'll need you to keep an eye on Mother Sun and her son. I can't let her go sell lottery tickets too. 12. Once 9 o'clock passed, I disguised myself and went to the nearest lottery shop to buy that number. Afterward, I wandered around outside for an hour, changed into a new set of clothes at a clothing store, and only then returned. Xiao Feng was assigned by me to monitor the cameras I had set up at home. By the time we returned to the hotel, it was almost 11, and Xiao Feng immediately looked at me. Sis, she noticed you left. Is that so? I replayed the surveillance footage. Around 10 o'clock, the old woman was awakened by her phone. Being elderly, she always kept her phone volume very loud, so the surveillance could clearly capture Sun Jikai's voice from the other end. Mom, how's the matter going? What matter? The old woman rubbed her head as she sat up, a sign of having slept too much. What's the matter? Sun Jikai's voice suddenly rose. Have you forgotten? We agreed on it yesterday. At this point, his voice lowered again, about taking Tong Tong to the amusement park and leaving her there. Oh dear, my memory, how could I forget such an important thing? She hurriedly put on her clothes and got out of bed. Don't worry, son, I'll take her to the amusement park right now and make sure she doesn't come back with me. That little brat thinks she can share my grandson's inheritance. She doesn't deserve it. Xiaomin was indeed right. Sun Jikai was also one of the conspirators. In my previous life, after our daughter went missing, he pretended to search with me for a week, but in reality, every time he went out to look, he went to Xiaomin's place. At that time, the temperature had already begun to show abnormal signs. Daily temperatures of 42 to 43 degrees Celsius became the norm, while I was outside searching for our daughter, fainting from heatstroke every day. He was indoors enjoying the comforts of air conditioning, embracing his beloved wife in romantic bliss. He must have already known about his mother winning the lottery by then. It's impressive how he kept up the act in front of me every day, pretending to be worried. Actually, if it weren't for his mother's lottery win, their plan was to drive me insane, have me locked up in a mental hospital, and then take sole possession of the current house and company. After all, as long as I lost the ability to fight back, there would be no issue of dividing assets with Sun Jikai. The old woman came out in her slippers, adjusting her kindly smile as she headed to my bedroom, but her face fell the moment she stepped inside. She quickly called Sun Jikai back, screeching like a rubber chicken. Sun, Jiang Yao, and that little brat are both gone. What? Where'd they go? Sun Jikai shouted back, and even Xiaomin's voice could be heard asking what was wrong. No idea. Even the clothes in the closet are gone. The old woman rummaged frantically through my bedroom before suddenly freezing, as if struck by a thought. Oh no, son, could she have found out about my precious grandson? Yesterday when I got back from the hospital, she said someone saw me helping Xiaomin. What? Why didn't you tell me yesterday? Xiao Jikai was extremely anxious. The old woman left the bedroom and headed to the kitchen. I knew she always drank water first thing every morning after waking up. She didn't ask further. So it probably wasn't about that. As soon as she finished speaking, a sudden thud was heard in the video. Ouch, Mom, what's wrong? Sun Jikai asked over there. That damned little bitch spilled oil all over the kitchen floor. Nearly killed me with that fall. Seeing this, my younger brother couldn't help but burst into laughter. That old hag, why didn't she just die from the fall? I laughed too, watching her lying helplessly on the ground. A bit of the hatred in my heart loosened its grip. But how could this be enough? This is just the beginning. I dragged the video forward by about half an hour, and Sun Jikai arrived at the same time as the ambulance. The old woman was still cursing. Son, you must avenge me. That ungrateful bitch actually dared to harm me. Her foul language made the medical staff present frown. Sun Jikai was usually someone who cared about his dignity, and now he frowned at his mother. Mom, stop cursing. We don't even know if it's Yao Yao yet. I can't reach her on the phone right now. Once I find her, I'll make sure she kneels and apologizes to you. Kneel and apologize. Let's see who ends up kneeling and apologizing when the time comes. 13. Seeing this, I turned off the video and powered on my phone. As soon as it turned on, Sun Jikai's call came through immediately. Jiang Yao, where are you? Did you know my mom fell? Why didn't you clean up the oil spill in the kitchen? Do you think it's easy for me to work outside? Is this how you show filial respect to elders? Hurry up and come home. My mother is still waiting in the hospital for someone to take care of her. Before I could even say a word, he bombarded me with commands, criticisms, and accusations. I don't know when that boy who used to have eyes only for me changed. Once, he pursued me with great enthusiasm too. He once drove hundreds of kilometers back from a business trip just to spend intimate moments with me, at our wedding, just like others. He cried uncontrollably in front of the officiant, probably just as he said in his past life. Chasing me was only because I was ranked first in my major, and dating me was something that brought him face at school. Driving hundreds of kilometers home to be intimate with me was also because his company was still in debt at the time. And the woman at home was clean and pretty, not to mention highway tolls were cheaper than hiring a prostitute. How did I feel when I heard these words back then? It felt like my already shattered heart was crumbling even further. The pain of losing my daughter was momentarily forgotten because of his words. I went mad, clawing at him and cursing him with the vilest words, yet he stood beneath the framed lottery ticket, watching me like I was some clown. And how did he treat me afterward? Oh, I remember now. He threw me into a dark room and had Xiao Yong bring 5 people to visit me anytime. Now I've long seen through him, and his words won't stir any emotional fluctuations in me anymore. But for now, I still have to placate him, because once he finds out I have 200 million in my hands, I'm certain he'll immediately divorce me to split the assets. There's still 1 month before the apocalypse begins. If he files for divorce now, he might really take half of my money. I can't take that risk. I adjusted my tone and said, "Honey, what are you talking about? Mom fell." "I don't know. Xiaofeng called me yesterday saying my mom got injured while working. I rushed to see her and bought the earliest high-speed train ticket. I never even stepped into the kitchen. Could it be Mom accidentally spilled it on the floor? Whoever spilled it doesn't matter now. You need to come back immediately. My mom still needs someone to take care of her." Sun Jikai cut me off on the other end. I laughed. Why didn't I realize Sun Jikai was this shameless in my past life, not taking care of his own mother, but expecting me to do it? Who gave him the nerve? I said, "No way. I have to take care of my mom. You take care of yours yourself." "Jiang Yao, do you even know how to write the word filial piety? A daughter married off is like water spilled. You're now the daughter-in-law of our Sun family. My mother is sick, so naturally it's your duty to take care of her. Besides, doesn't your mother still have your father and brother? Why should you step forward and make a scene?" His words were harsh, but they revealed his true nature completely. If it weren't for the plans ahead, I really couldn't be bothered to say another word to him. "How about this? Honey, I'm almost back home now. And turning around isn't an option. I'll use the money to hire a caregiver for Mom. What do you think? Hire a caregiver? What about Mom's hospital bills and nutrition expenses? You know my company can't cover any of that right now. I'll cover those too. Consider it my filial duty as her daughter-in-law. After all, she only came to the city to see Tong Tong. Otherwise she wouldn't have taken that fall. I speak disgusting words against my conscience. That works too. At least you're sensible." Sun Jikai said with satisfaction, then added, "So when are you coming back?" "Probably towards the end of summer vacation. By then Tong Tong will be starting school, so it'll be just the right time for me to return." "All right, make sure you call me when you're back." Calling you to plan selling the child again." I hung up the phone and transferred 50,000 yuan to Sun Jikai. 14. My brother, listening beside me, was panting with anger. "Sis, how has Sun Jikai become so shameless now? It really makes me want to beat him to death. The company's thriving now, no longer the small-time boss who needed my dowry to fill his financial holes." I sneered. "Xiao Feng, call Mom right now and tell her to pretend she fell and got hurt. She shouldn't leave the house anymore. Xiao Min is very sharp, and her home is close to ours. If she gets suspicious and asks her parents to verify in our village, it would be more trouble than it's worth." My younger brother nodded. "All right. I'll make the call right away." "What about Xiao Yong? He didn't manage to take Tong Tong today, so he must be planning to go back, right?" After a moment of thought, I said, "Register a new WeChat account, transfer him 10,000 yuan, and tell him not to leave the provincial capital. If we keep transferring him 10,000 every day, he'll have no choice but to obey." My brother frowned. "Why should we just give him money for nothing? Who does he think he is?" I patted his shoulder. "This is the simplest solution. I can't knowingly let a pervert go back to the village and harm children. We're about to have 200 million. This amount is just a drop in the bucket. Don't be stingy." Reluctantly, my brother nodded. I said, "You should get some sleep now. Then go home and bring Mom and Dad over. Don't tell anyone. If anyone asks, just say you're taking them to see a doctor. Don't give anything away. Tong Tong and I will wait here for you." "What sleep? I'm so pumped right now." "Not sleepy at all," my brother said as he stood up and headed out. "Sis, just stay here with Tong Tong and wait for our family reunion." Seeing that I couldn't persuade him, I let him go. 15. Tong Tong and I didn't leave the hotel all day. She watched cartoons beside me while I browsed for houses online. The neighborhood where Sun Jikai lived in his previous life was excellent. with lush trees all around and situated at a very high elevation. Not only did it help lower temperatures during the extreme heat apocalypse, but it also remained unaffected when the heavy rains came later. It's worth noting that after the extreme heat, the floods rose to the height of 5 stories in ordinary residential buildings, yet that area barely retained any rainwater. It seems that as long as you have money, no matter the circumstances, you'll always have more survival opportunities than ordinary people. The most important point is that all the houses in that villa community are surrounded by high walls on all sides, perhaps out of habit. When Sun Jikai and the others were looking for houses initially, they sought villas that resembled the standalone courtyard homes commonly found in rural areas. Villas with living room doors facing the road or surrounded by low fences are generally not favored by rural residents, since there's a ready-made reference. I don't need to put in so much effort. I can just buy a house in that community directly. With the house issue resolved, the next step is renovation. In their previous life, Sun Jikai and his group had several thugs led by Xiao Yong stay in their home just to protect the property, yet it was still frequently visited by homeless people, learning from their mistakes. I plan to purchase steel bars to encase all 3 above-ground floors of the villa and install an electric fence around the courtyard walls. This part will be handled by Xiaofeng. He's in the renovation business and knows far more than I do. Secondly, since electricity is essential, generators and gasoline must be stocked up for use during heavy rainstorms, while solar power will suffice during extreme heat. Next is the issue of weapons, firearms, bullets, bows and arrows, knives, and other iron tools. Each person should have at least 3. Additionally, radios, walkie-talkies, pagers, and other communication devices will be needed once regular communication is disrupted. For extreme heat conditions, stock up on several refrigerators and air conditioners, as well as supplies for subsequent weather changes, such as kayaks, ice skates, and so on. After addressing safety concerns, the next priority is food. Stockpile as much rice, flour, cooking oil, and other staples as possible, for vegetables and fruits. Focus on dried products for long-term storage when fresh supplies become unavailable. As for water, I plan to dedicate the entire basement level to water storage. Half of the bottled water will be stored in the supermarket, as it has a long shelf life, while the other half will be stored in 20 large 20-square-meter water tanks kept in the basement, with pipes connected to the rooms above. This way, even if water becomes contaminated during heavy rains, there will be no shortage of drinking water. Next is Tongtong's formula milk, buying a 10-year supply to ensure she never runs out. Also, stock up on plenty of snacks and toys for her. Whatever that bastard had in the previous life, she deserves to have too. Then, clothes for all seasons must be stockpiled. Since it's uncertain whether extreme cold will follow the heavy rains, preparations must be made for every season. Finally, and most importantly, stock up on all kinds of medicines, cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, vitamins, buy as much as you can. I was writing and sketching in my room when I suddenly realized it had grown dark outside. 16. My parents and younger brother arrived at the hotel at 9 o'clock the next day. My mother had grown even darker after a wheat harvest season, making her look older, and my father's back had begun to hunch. The moment I saw them, I wanted to cry. I ran forward, hugged them, and began to sob. Dad, Mom, in my past life, because I didn't listen to them, I made them worry about me day and night. As their child, I owe them so much. Yao Yao, don't cry. Mom heard everything from Xiaofeng. You've suffered, don't worry. Whatever you want to do now, Mom supports you. Whether it's seeking revenge or anything else, Mom and Dad will always stand behind you. My mother held me in her arms, gently stroking my shoulder while softly comforting me. Hearing her soothing words, the emotions I had suppressed for so long finally erupted. Nothing is more heartbreaking than the concern of loved ones. In my past life, my foolishness caused them endless worry. In this life, I will make up for all my shortcomings. Dad and my younger brother were also wiping tears beside me, and Tong Tong cried even harder, frightened by my emotional outburst. The family didn't know how long they had been crying, but under Dad's persuasion, they finally sat on the sofa to discuss what to do next. Sis, I've already transferred the money to Xiao Yong. Although he kept asking who I was, He was more concerned about whether I would really send him 10,000 yuan every day. It's clear that with this money, he'll definitely do whatever we say. I also installed surveillance cameras near their house last night. If he doesn't stay in the provincial capital as agreed, we'll know immediately. My brother recounted everything he had done after returning home. I saw that he had done everything well and nodded in approval. Good job, Xiaofeng. Next, we'll need to prepare supplies and housing. Mom, Dad, for now, you'll have to stay in a hotel. Once everything is settled over there, I'll bring you over right away. Mom hugged Tong Tong and nodded. All right, you and Xiaofeng focus on what you need to do. We'll take care of Tong Tong. The hotel has good food and comfortable accommodations. There's no hardship at all, don't worry about us. Seeing how reliable my parents were, I felt relieved and left with Xiaofeng to cash out the lottery ticket. Last night, I kept checking the lottery results, fearing any mishaps. Fortunately, fate didn't play tricks on me. The numbers and prize money were exactly the same as in my past life. After collecting the prize money, Xiaofeng took me out for a 2-hour stroll before we changed outfits and headed to the sales office of that residential complex. By the time we finished buying the villa, it was already evening. The weather outside is getting hotter and hotter. No one could have imagined that a month later, temperatures would soar close to 60 degrees, riverbeds would dry up, power grids would collapse, communications would fail, and countless elderly and children would perish under the extreme heat. 17. I called Sun Jikai the day before communications went down. By then, it had already been 37 days since cashing in the lottery ticket. The renovations to the villa and stockpiling of supplies ensured our family could survive here for 10 years without issue. My family is settled. Now it's time to take care of my enemies. According to my memories from my past life, global communication will be cut off in just one more day, leaving people to rely on the most primitive methods to exchange information. Before that happens, I need to track down all my enemies from my previous life. Honey, where are you now? Sitting in front of the surveillance monitor, I dialed Sun Jikai's number, watching Sun Jikai use a toothpick to peel grapes for Xiao Min in the video, while the old woman massages her legs. It's both infuriating and laughable. This family, all for the sake of a grandson, is truly willing to become slaves and servants. Jiang Yao, are you coming back? Sun Jikai's words successfully made Xiao Min pause her comfortable eating. Both she and the old woman turned their gaze towards Sun Jikai. Sun Jikai said nervously, "You're coming back now. It's almost 60 degrees outside, and everyone's saying the apocalypse is coming. We haven't stocked up any supplies for you." So I had to call to find out I'm still expected to return. The day he shamelessly brought his mistress home. Did he ever think this day would come? I just don't want to argue with him about these things right now. No, honey. It's because Xiaofeng won the lottery a month ago and bought a villa in the mountains. Now that the renovation is done, he moved me and our parents here. I've also heard about the apocalypse rumors. No matter what happens, I thought our family should stay together, so I asked if you wanted to come. Let me video call you so you can see. No need. Sun Jikai immediately refused when he heard I wanted to video call, then quickly realized what he had said and added, "I mean, you don't need to call, just send a video clip. That way, I can see clearly." Yao Yao, you truly live up to being my son family's daughter-in-law. I really didn't marry the wrong person. 18. He said this as if trying to please me, but in the video, I clearly saw Xiao Min reach behind his waist and pinch him. Sun Jikai immediately hugged her and kissed her, whispering something in her ear. I didn't hear it. Nor was I interested. Instead, I directly sent him the video I had taken earlier. The three of them saw my luxurious villa together, and their faces turned green with envy. The old woman was the first to stand up angrily, saying, "So it turns out that brat was the one who won the lottery a month ago. What luck? Why him? Such fortune should belong to my son, my grandson." She paced back and forth in circles around the living room, then stood before Sun Jikai and Xiao Min with bloodshot eyes. "No. Son, such a fine house. How can that bunch of country bumpkins deserve to live in it? We must take it from them." Sun Jikai and Xiao Min exchanged glances and smiled. "Mom, you're thinking exactly what we're thinking. Such a great place. Even if the temperature rose another 10 degrees, we wouldn't mind, with our child born in such a place. How could we worry about raising them?" "Exactly. This house should belong to my grandchild. How can we let those two little wenches live here?" Xiao Min stood up, her nearly 6-month pregnant belly protruding, and said, "Mom, husband, I have an idea. Since Jiang Yao invited you to stay, it shows she still loves you deeply. We can use that to our advantage and placate her for now. You should know that my brother is still staying with me." "What do you mean?" Sun Jikai quickly asked. Xiao Min smiled confidently and said, "We'll call my brother now to explain the situation and tell him the plan. Have him bring a few people over tomorrow. Jiang Yao's family only has a few members, while my brother will bring strong men. Once they're under control, how we handle things will be entirely up to us." "Oh, my daughter-in-law is so clever," the old woman said, patting Xiao Min's belly. "With such a smart mother, my grandson will surely grow up just like his father and get into a top-tier university. Hee hee." Sun Jikai also hugged Xiao Min. "My wife is really smart. If only I had spent my wedding night with you. You don't know, the moment I saw you at the wedding, I fell in love with you," he said gently to Xiao Min. "When I was reciting my vows in front of the officiant, I was thinking of you, and during the wedding night, I was thinking of you too. I thought it would be impossible to be with you in this lifetime, especially since you and Jiang Yao are best friends. Never imagined you'd even have my child now," Xiao Min said smugly. "During your wedding, I could tell something was off about the way you looked at me. I originally planned to steal you away to my room on your wedding night, but I just wasn't sure about your feelings. Honey, it turns out we've been in love with each other all along." Sun Jikai kissed Xiao Min's cheek. "Once we take over the villa, we'll live happily together forever. But Jiang Yao is coming over soon. How are you going to leave with us?" As soon as he said this, the old woman was the first to object. "If she dares to leave Xiaomin behind, I'll smash her face." Xiao Min gave her a disapproving look, her eyes filled with disdain beneath the surface, though her words remained sweet. "Mom, I know you care about me, but now isn't the time for arguments. I've already made up my mind. When she arrives at the neighborhood, I'll go out and wait by the door, pretending I've come to seek refuge with her. She's always been so good to me all these years. Seeing me outside in this weather with a big belly, she won't have the heart to abandon me. That won't do. It's scorching hot outside." The old woman didn't dare argue loudly, only muttering under her breath. Xiao Min smiled and said, "Of course I won't stand there long. I'll go out after she gets on the elevator." 19. When my brother and I arrived, Xiao Min was pacing outside my door, face covered in sweat. Seeing me, her eyes instantly lit up. "Yao Yao, you're back." I pretended to be surprised and reached out to steady her. "Xiaomin, what are you doing here?" She threw herself into my arms and began to sob softly. "Yao Yao, I've been abandoned. He left me after getting me pregnant." "Woo woo." She spun me a tale of a devoted woman falling for a heartless man. I listened quietly, exchanging a glance with my brother, both of us seeing the irony reflected in each other's eyes. I comforted her, saying, don't be afraid, you still have me. My younger brother bought a villa. Why don't you come live there with me?" She glanced at my brother with her sparkling, watery eyes and said coyly, "Is that really okay?" My brother forced a smile and twitched the corner of his mouth. "My sister makes all the decisions in our family." "Then go." I made the decision for her quite boldly. "The weather is so hot, I don't have time to act with her here." When Sun Jikai opened the door, what he saw was Xiao Min and me being as close as sisters. He glanced at Xiao Min first before turning his gaze to me. "Yao Yao, what's going on with you guys?" "Ha, what a coincidence." "Right, just ran into Xiaomin right at the door." I transformed into a fake smile girl, chuckling at him. Before he could say anything, the old woman squeezed her way out from behind the door. "Oh dear, poor thing. How could you come all alone in this scorching weather? Come in quickly, cool off with the fan and have some water." She held a small fan and blew it directly at Xiao Min, also handing her a bottle of water. I saw it very clearly in the video. Xiao Min stood outside for less than 2 minutes from the moment she came out until I appeared, and even the sweat on her face was just splash water. She really does favor her eldest grandson, unwilling to let him suffer even for 2 minutes. I watched all this coldly without saying a word. Soon enough, they would learn the consequences of their actions. Sun Jikai didn't even let me enter the room before locking the door, urging me to leave quickly. I knew he was afraid I'd go inside and discover his affair with Xiao Min, but he didn't realize I'd known all along. I just didn't want to confront him about it at that moment. I obediently followed him downstairs. Seeing me driving a G-Class, Sun Jikai couldn't hide his jealousy. Xiao Feng, is this your new car? He kept touching the car like a country bumpkin. My brother gave him a disdainful look and said, yes, I bought it, but I've already given it to my sister. Oh dear, you gave it to your sister. The old lady was delighted upon hearing this. Giving it to your sister is like giving it to my son, Xiao Kai. Since you like it, why don't you drive it later? Sun Jikai didn't blush at such shameless words but instead looked at Xiaofeng expectantly. Xiaofeng said, that won't do. If you break it, you can't afford to pay for it. This car had undergone special modifications. Not only could it withstand high temperatures, but it could also operate flawlessly in weather as cold as -50 or 60 degrees. Hey, you little brat. The old woman wasn't happy when she heard my brother dare to speak like that about her son. However, Xiaomin subtly held her back from behind. Xiao Feng is right. Not everyone knows how to drive such a nice car. Yao Yao, my stomach isn't feeling too well. Can we hurry to your place? Stomachache. The old woman immediately shifted her focus upon hearing about her grandchild. Get in the car quickly. You're carrying precious cargo right now. With that, he helped her into the car, and Sun Jikai nervously sat beside her in the back. Watching the scene of their family of 3 together, I suddenly felt a lump in my throat, unable to swallow or spit it out. It was unbearably painful. Noticing my distress, my younger brother quickly grabbed my wrist, offering silent support. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay composed, then turned and walked toward the driver's seat. 20. Upon arriving at the villa, the 3 of them acted like Granny Lu entering the Grand View garden, touching this and examining that. The old woman couldn't help but complain, it's cooler here than in the apartment, but what's with these walls surrounded by iron nets? They're hideous, tear them down tomorrow, and that empty plot, why not plant some vegetables? Just leaving it barren like that, with temperatures nearing 60 degrees these days. Good luck keeping any vegetables alive. She helped Xiaomin into the living room. Complaining about the sofa color being unattractive one moment and lamenting the lack of a grand chandelier the next, acting as if this were her own home, Xiaomin sat on the sofa, her eyes filled with disdain. It was clear she disliked the villa's decor as well, but instead of making an issue of it, she set her sights on the master bedroom. Yao Yao, which room will I stay in tonight? The doctor said my pregnancy isn't stable, so it's best if I take the master bedroom. It gets plenty of sunlight. Which is good for the baby. You want the master bedroom? I smiled as I looked at her. She looked at me pitifully and asked, is that not allowed? I raised an eyebrow without answering her and instead picked up 3 glasses of water from the table to hand to them. The weather outside was unbearably hot, and after their journey, they couldn't possibly be anything but thirsty. Sure enough, seeing me bring them water, all 3 of them gulped it down eagerly. I smiled as I watched all this, waiting for them to put down their cups before saying, you'll find out soon enough where you'll be sleeping. What do you mean? Xiaomin frowned and looked at me. What do I mean? You'll know soon enough. 21. By the time Xiaomin woke up again, it was already night. Groggily lifting her head, she saw the chains on her wrists and ankles and immediately screamed, Jiang Yao, what have you done to me? I sat on the stool, holding a stun gun quietly while waiting for her to wake up. Hearing her voice, I opened my eyes. What have I done? Isn't it obvious? I stood up, walked over to her, and tapped her pretty face with the stun gun. Do you still take me for a fool? Do you still want to occupy my brother's villa? Now you've gotten your wish. You've successfully taken over the basement of this villa. Yao Yao, what are you talking about? Seeing the situation turn unfavorable, she immediately feigned weakness. Tears flowing like a faucet, turned on at will. I don't understand. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? We've known each other for over 20 years. Don't you know my character by now? You know better than anyone what kind of person I am. Yao Yao, don't listen to others' provocations. Listening to her heartfelt words, I suddenly smiled and walked over to press a button. The wall panel opposite her immediately rose. In the room across, unmistakably, were Sun Jikai and his mother. They were also shackled hand and foot. And now fully awake, seeing me, they were utterly shocked, then erupted in fury. Jiang Yao, what are you doing? Release us at once, you little bitch, you've gone too far. The old woman also started shouting, untie me right now, or I'll make my son divorce you." Pfft. Her words successfully made me burst out laughing. I looked at her and said, "You old hag, get this straight. It's not about whether your son divorces me or not, but whether I let this rotten cucumber of a man live, also. Haven't you noticed who's beside me?" Hearing this, she quickly shifted her gaze and saw Xiao Min, also tied up here just like her. Instantly, she roared furiously, "Ah, my grandson, you wretched bitch, if you dare harm my grandson, I'll never let you go even in death." Her angry roar turned Sun Jikai and Xiao Min pale with fear, and they both screamed simultaneously, "Mom, shut up." Seeing them like this, I couldn't help but laugh. "So you still want to keep it from me?" I turned to Sun Jikai and said, "Sun Jikai, if you don't want to be with me anymore, you could just divorce me. Why go so far as to want me and our child dead?" "Yao Yao, you know everything." Sun Jikai's voice began to tremble. "It's all a misunderstanding. Xiaomin and I aren't what you think." "Oh, not what I think." I opened the middle door and walked up to him. "Is it about you two falling for each other at our wedding? Or planning to sell my daughter? Or perhaps the child in her belly isn't yours? Since that's the case, then I won't hold back." I took out a string of red buttons from my pocket, picked one, and pressed it. Xiaomin's heart-wrenching scream instantly echoed throughout the dungeon. "It hurts." Her beautiful face began to contort, and beads of sweat the size of peas started rolling down her forehead. "My grandson, you little bitch, how dare you hurt my grandson? You'll die a horrible death, how annoying." I frowned at the old woman and pressed another button. The old woman's body twisted violently before she fainted. Sun Jikai watched my series of actions, the hypocrisy in his eyes gradually turning into fear. 22. "Yao Yao, don't be like this. I hardly recognize you anymore. Have you forgotten how deeply in love we were back in school? I just took a temporary nap in our marriage. I love you. I still love you." It was all Xiao Min seducing me. She sent me explicit messages, deliberately applied to my company, and dressed provocatively every day to catch my attention. She was the one who seduced me. Xiao Min listened on the other side, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Sun Jikai, you bastard. What are you saying? Was it me who tied you to the bed? Did I get pregnant all by myself? You scumbag. Are you really abandoning your own son just to save your skin now?" But Sun Jikai completely ignored her, instead continuing to fawn over me with an ingratiating smile. "Yao Yao, give me another chance, please. Let's start over. Tong Tong needs a father, and you need a husband too. How can you survive during these calamitous times without a man to protect you?" He reminisced about the past and painted visions of the future, pouring out a torrent of words. I just stood quietly in front of him, watching intently to see how much sweet talk he could muster. Sun Jikai pleaded for quite a while, seeing that I remained unmoved, and begged, "Yao Yao, give me a chance. I promise to protect you by your side and love only you." I raised an eyebrow and said, "Are you telling the truth?" "Of course, absolutely." He nodded eagerly. I replied, "Fine, I'll give you this chance." I stepped forward and used the key to unlock the chains on his hands and feet. As soon as he was freed, his face visibly relaxed with relief, and he immediately moved to hug me. I blocked him with the stun baton, pressing it against his shoulder and saying, "However, there's a condition." "What condition?" He stopped in his tracks. "Yao Yao, as long as it's something I can do, I'll absolutely do it." I smiled at him and enunciated each word clearly. "I want the flesh in her belly, dead." "No." Xiaomin cried out in terror. "Jiang Yao, we're best friends, I'm your closest friend. Just because I made one little mistake, are you really going to take my life?" But Sun Jikai was a businessman, adept at reading people's expressions, and he saw the determination in my eyes. His jaw clenched tightly as he gave me a deep look, forcing out a single word, "Good." His gaze darkened as he walked toward Xiao Min, who shook her head in terror. "No, husband, I'm carrying the Sun family's heir in my belly, the son you've been dreaming of day and night." At that moment, I took out a stun baton and struck the old woman hard with it. She groaned faintly and woke up, but the moment she woke up, Xiao Min's heart-wrenching screams pierced her eardrums, because Sun Jikai was punching Xiao Min's belly repeatedly. Blow after blow, blood flowed down her legs onto the floor, spreading in dark pools. Seeing this scene, the old woman immediately struggled to get up. "Xiao Kai, what are you doing? Stop it right now." That's your son in there. Stop it, I'm begging you, stop. Woo-woo, she spat out a mouthful of blood in fury. Her grandson was her life, the long-awaited hope she clung to, the promise she had made to the ancestors of the Sun family. But now, her grandson had died at the hands of her own son. She tilted her head and passed out. 23. Sun Jikai approached me with a pale face, not even glancing at Xiao Min, who had fainted from pain. Are you satisfied now? He asked hoarsely. Satisfied? I sneered. Do you think I should be satisfied? I said as I smashed his head with the stun baton. He collapsed limply on the ground like a dead dog. I struck him again and again, only stopping when he was barely breathing, then said, only when you suffer the pain my daughter and I endured in our past lives might I be satisfied. My voice, cold as the depths of winter, echoed sharply through the chain-filled basement. I walked out of the basement, my face covered in blood, looking like a demon. My younger brother was waiting at the door. When he saw me, he looked at me worriedly and asked, Sis, are you okay? I smiled and said, I'm fine. This is Sun Jikai's blood, Xiao Feng. I'm so happy. It's been a long time since I've been this happy. Seeing my emotional state, my younger brother quickly stepped forward and hugged me. Sis, be happy if you want to. This is what they owe you and Tong Tong. Tomorrow, when that scumbag Xiao Yong comes, you can be even happier. 24. At noon the next day, Xiao Yong indeed arrived with 5 people. I looked at those 5 people and closed my eyes. I knew every single one of them. In my past life, they and Xiao Yong tortured me together in that room, reducing me to something neither human nor ghost. I stood by the second-floor window and watched with my own eyes as they fell into the trap at the entrance. The entire courtyard was filled with traps I had set, and the one they fell into was merely the deepest. I walked downstairs, carrying a medical kit, and entered the trap they had fallen into from the first floor. All 4 of them had already been knocked unconscious by the electric net inside the trap. I held a 10-centimeter needle and gave each of them an injection. Don't they love mating? Then let them have their fill. I sat in another room, watching the cameras in the trap as they mounted each other like wild dogs and boars, curling my lips into a smirk. 3 days. As soon as they stop, I'll stun them and inject them with drugs. Everyone was exhausted, coughing up mouthfuls of blood, but they were under the control of the drugs and simply couldn't stop. I added a little twist, throwing the old woman, Sun Jikai, and Xiao Min down. The trap grew livelier. By the 10th day, a foul stench emanated from the trap, and all movement ceased. I sat before the screen, staring at the motionless bodies, tears streaming down my face in stunned silence. Mom, Dad, and my younger brother brought Tong Tong to my side. They held me in their midst, comforting me with their warmth. Mom said, It's over, Yao Yao, your hatred has ended. For the rest of our lives, our family will always be together. Listening to Mom's voice, I felt the love of my family, crying out loud, for the rest of my life, I won't be alone anymore.